What? Is it some kind of a sophisticated torture from a terrible Russians? Indeed, it looks like this guy will tell them all the state secrets in just a couple of minutes. But no. And no, he is not a BDSM addict. Well, as far as I know. He is just a simple Russian guy relaxing after a long week working at a factory. And this terrible ritual is just an average Saturday for Russians who love their traditional Russian banya. Visiting a banya is one of the oldest Russian traditions. Even now, when everyone actually has a place to shower inside their apartments, people are still enjoying a good banya. Banya for Russians is not just a place where people come to take a bath. It's a sacred ritual. Sitting in a steam room with a glass of beer, spanking each other with birch brooms, diving into the snow, chatting with friends and just having a good time. That's what people go to the banya for. Or, you know, spending some quality time with hot members of the opposite sex, but to each his own. And we'll start with some history. Russian banya is basically a specially equipped room, usually built of wood, where a large amount of hot steam is created with the help of water and hot air. This method of bathing and relaxing actually was not developed in Russia. And not in Finland, even though Finns will tell you that Finnish sauna is one and only true banya. The idea of steam baths has been known to mankind for a very long time, and it's confirmed by numerous archaeological excavations and written sources. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus, 5th century BC, reported that Scythians who lived between Black and Caspian seas used banyas. They installed 3 sticks, bent toward each other, and wrapped them with felt. Then they set up a vat in the middle of the room and threw red-hot stones into it. Other sources indicate that the bath culture existed in ancient Rome, and Romans had spread in the conquered territories of Western Europe. Wealthy Romans used to visit the bathhouse twice a day, but it was not for bathing purposes, not at all. However, after the fall of the Roman Empire, the culture of bathing was kinda forgotten in Europe. Some people say that it was the way the church wanted to protect the forests of Europe, and taking a bath without clothes was considered a sinful deed. Actually, this was one of the reasons for the lethal pandemics of plague and cholera. Without the proper hygiene, these diseases spread like a wildfire. Even the royals did not consider it necessary to wash their royal bodies often. So, according to the Queen of Spain Isabella of Castile, she bathed only twice in her life, the day she was born and the day she got married. But today we are here to discuss Russian banya and not to talk about the questionable relationship between Europeans and water. So, let's continue with Russia. It seems that in Russia the banya kinda always existed, at least if you believe the Byzantine historian Procopius of Caesarea. Back in the 5th century, he wrote that the culture of ablution accompanies the ancient Slavs throughout their whole lives. According to Slav myths, the banya's keeper and its soul is a creature called bannik, an absolutely naked old man whose body is covered with leaves from a broom. Bannik was supposed to be appeased from time to time. People were gifting him bread and salt, which once again emphasized the respectful attitude of the Slavs to the banya itself and its essence, which they literally idolized. And even after the Christianization of Russia, when the church began an active fight against pagan rituals and all sorts of superstitions, the banya did not cease to exist, but only strengthened its influence. It has become a must-see place before performing the most important church rituals: baptism, wedding, communion, and much more. In fact, half of the main events in the life of a Russian person were held in a bathhouse. 80% of people in Russia were born in banyas. Supposedly it was the most sterile place in the house. Now compare this with medieval Europe, where lice were called pillars of God and were considered a sign of holiness. In Russia, not a single celebration could do without a banya. And when meeting even an occasional guest, the owner of the house was supposed to offer him a place in his banya first, and only then let the guest taste the food and spend the night. It's no coincidence that in Russian fairy tales, travelers in addition to shelter and dinner are always offered a banya. Russian people were also supposed to go to the banya with almost any sickness, especially when it came to colds, runny nose, coughs and joint diseases. For a Russian person, visiting a banya is both a natural need and a kind of a ritual, which neither adults, nor children, nor the rich, nor the poor can violate. But seriously speaking, in fact, Russian people did not wash themselves too often. There was a special day for banyas, Saturday. This is due to some features of the old Russian banyas. I'll talk about it later. That is, our ancestors only washed themselves once a week. But for the Europeans, even this seemed like something bizarre, and they thought that banyas have some mythical qualities and that thanks to them the Russian people were so strong and mighty. By the way, once the Russian banya literally saved Russia from being conquered by our Polish friends. Many people know the story of false Dmitry I, a Polish impostor who almost successfully passed himself off as Tsarevich Dmitry, son of Ivan the Terrible. He even managed to enter Moscow and spent several months ruling it. But for some reason Dmitry suspiciously did not enjoy the Russian banya. They say that this very fact helped to convince ordinary people that false Dmitry is an impostor, and after a year of his reign he was overthrown and killed. In addition to the typical private banyas, there were also public bathhouses. And these establishments were in no way inferior to the baths of ancient Rome. The nobles went to the public banyas not to wash themselves, but to relax and have a good time. In general, the public bathhouses of the 16th-18th centuries were a strange place. Since ancient times, people were visiting private banyas together, men and women, old people and children. Accordingly, this tradition has passed to public banyas. The problem is there were no brothels in Russia at that time, and the demand was always high. And yes, you guessed it. Public bathhouses were filled with women of easy virtue. They worked in public banyas as bathhouse attendants, but in fact they offered a wide range of services. Therefore, public banyas turned out to be a rather strange public institution. Imagine a huge room where dozens of people are washing themselves, meanwhile a few meters away behind a small curtain wealthy clients are enjoying the company of prostitutes. But as you know, all good things come to an end. A stern and prim German woman, Catherine the Great, eventually banned mixed banyas for men and women. Apparently she was shocked by such a display of immorality. However, there is also a more prosaic version. At that time there was a huge surge of syphilis in Europe, due to which many European public bathhouses were closed for many years. In Russia, the separation of public banyas into male and female ones helped to stop the spread of STDs while preserving public places for bathing. The most famous public banyas in Russia are the Sandunóvskie Baths, or just Sanduny. It's a bath complex in the heart of Moscow that was opened more than 200 years ago and is still operating. Sandunóvskie Baths are considered the standard of the Russian public banyas. If you want to visit some unusual place in Moscow, then this will be an excellent choice for any tourists. You don't even have to use them and get wet, you can just sign up for a tour. However, let's forget about the huge and luxurious public bathhouse and return to the real Russian bath, a small private banya. That is, an ordinary log cabin with a steam room, no fancy stuff. There are two traditional types of banyas, банька по-черному and банька по-белому. It is kinda hard to translate from Russian, but let's just say it's a black banya and white banya. The old traditional rural version is the black banya, and the real black banya actually looks like a hell on earth. A superheated black room with puffs of black smoke everywhere and filled with people who are as red as lobsters. The reason is simple. Initially banyas were built without chimneys, so soot from the heat settled on the walls of the banya, and the whole room was coal black. However, such a structure was ideal for the harsh Russian climate. The bath was easily warmed up, did not require a lot of firewood and kept the heat very well. In addition, in such a banya, an air humidity of 100% could be achieved. In white banyas, you are unlikely to achieve humidity above 70%. In traditional Finnish saunas, humidity does not exceed 10 to 15%. And it is believed that the higher the humidity, the more beneficial is the effect of the banya on the respiratory system and blood circulation. In addition, a moderate temperature can be maintained in the black banya, around 50 to 55 degrees. This is important since for our ancestors the banya was a place to wash themselves, and not a place to heat themselves up as much as possible, so the moderate temperature was convenient. Still, the disadvantages of such baths eventually outweighed the advantages, and gradually they became a thing of the past. Not everyone liked to sit among the black smoke, and it took long hours to warm up such a banya. Of course, even now they can be found, but only as an outlandish exotic or in distant villages. 99% of the banyas in Russia are now white banyas, with a chimney. They are more comfortable, more spacious, they mostly have a steam room and separated places to change and to eat and relax. Therefore, you should know that if you are invited to a Russian banya, then most likely you will find yourself in a white banya. This is a wonderful experience and you shouldn't refuse, but if you somehow find yourself in a black banya, then you will never forget this 5-minute adventure. Now let's talk about what banya means for an average modern Russian. Is it something sacred? Not really. If 150 years ago every Russian visited a banya at least once a week, then now you can easily find a person who has never been in a Russian banya in his whole life. Hell, I've personally been there literally once or twice. But there is a huge stratum of people in Russia for whom every trip to the banya is an important ceremony, one of the greatest rituals in their lives. Now let's walk through the main stages of this ritual. First, when visiting a modern banya, you will need to be prepared for high temperatures, not 50. Bath temperatures often exceed 90 degrees, so if you don't want your hair to literally burn your head, then wear a special wool hat. However, the hat will not protect your entire body from the overheat, so be careful. And if you have heart problems, it is better to leave this exact activity to others. Yes, many consider the banya as a remedy for all diseases, including cardio ones, but just believe me, it's better not to risk it. By the way, I don't recommend sitting with your bare ass on the benches either, you will burn yourself. If you are offered to be beaten with dried brooms, do not be alarmed, this is a special bath broom, called venik. It is commonly used for massage and to facilitate heat transfer from hot air to the body. Well, after you have felt all the charm of the scalding heat and hot broom, you will need to cool down. Weak people can go to the dressing room and cool down for a couple of minutes, but real Russian guys are cooled by ice water outside, or by snow. And then, after the water, you should go inside again for another round of heat and broom. True, some people do not use a broom for the first 2 rounds, only for the third one. After each round, people usually feel as hungry as a bear, so the patrons use the break to eat, drink beer, tea or other beverages, play games or relax in a good company in an antechamber of the steam room. Remember, you are in Russia. As you can imagine, in Russia many people use this time to drink not tea, but vodka. Again, I do not recommend it, especially for the first time. Who knows how your body will behave in such conditions, so better safe than sorry. Now let's talk about the healing qualities of the banya. Does it really have all the wonderful magical properties that are attributed to it? Yes and no. As I said, a bath can be dangerous for many people. For those who are too old and too young, for those who have problems with the respiratory system, heart, blood vessels, or who are overweight. If your temperature tends to rise fast, then steam treatment is also not worth it. In addition, the banya is contraindicated for epileptics, people with ulcers, liver and thyroid diseases. And if you, for example, inject yourself with botox, then don't visit banya for a couple of weeks. Otherwise, your new face will simply melt. And who benefits from visiting the banya? Well, everyone else, if they just want to relax and have a good time. But for some of us, banyas are especially useful. And people with joint pains are in the first place on the list. They are followed by the people with kidney diseases. Profuse sweating in the banya unburdens diseased organs and helps the body to cleanse itself. There is no consensus regarding the effect of the banya on respiratory diseases. Some people feel that it is especially easy to breathe after a good banya, but asthmatics should definitely not go there and take risks. In addition, banya detaches harmful bacteria from the skin by renewing it and removes various harmful toxins from the body, while restoring the water-salt balance. In general, going to the banya is a quintessential Russian experience, especially if we are talking about a small private wooden banya. Perhaps washing in a banya, opening the door and dipping in the snow is the most Russian thing you can ever do in Russia, at least from those things that don't include hugging bears. So go ahead, come to Russia, get naked and enjoy a pleasant place with some heat, food and of course a great company.